Libyan desert, September 17th, 1907. The desert did not forgive mistakes. It only waited. Elijah Mensah rode last, as always, letting the others drown the silence with their certainties. Dr. Reginald Harrington led the column, silver hair flashing like a banner of ownership under the merciless sun. Webb, pink and eager as a schoolboy, followed close enough to taste the dust of Harrington's horse. Dover brought up the middle, eyes flicking to Elijah every few minutes, as though the Ghanaian scholar might sprout horns or wings at any moment. Elijah said little. Men who spoke loudest usually heard the least. The heat pressed down, thick and patient. Beneath it, something older pressed upward, a low, steady hum that lived in the bones of the earth. Elijah felt it first in his molars, then deeper, like a second heartbeat learning his rhythm, matching it, claiming it. They found the tomb where the dunes had forgotten how to move. A single slab lay half covered, carved with an unblinking eye that stared at the sky with the calm of something that had already seen the end of the world and found it wanting. Elijah dismounted and knelt. The stone was warm from within, pulsing like skin over a fever.
An entrance,
Harrington announced, already tasting headlines, knighthoods, and the grateful applause of the Royal Geographical Society. Elijah only nodded. Some truths announced themselves. Others waited until you were alone with them in the dark. They descended. Cold air rose like a sigh. Cedar, lightning, memory. Torchlight sank into the walls instead of bouncing away, swallowed by carvings older than any alphabet the British carried in their notebooks. Spears slept in the stone until careless footsteps woke them. When the mechanism clicked, Elijah moved first, dragging Webb down hard as iron hissed overhead. A shallow cut opened along Elijah's shoulder. Blood ran dark against darker skin, dripping onto the floor in perfect circles that glowed for a heartbeat, then vanished, as though the tomb had tasted him and approved. Harrington offered neither thanks nor apology, only the brisk command to keep moving, voice cracking just enough to betray that he had felt the floor drink. In the central chamber waited a gilded chest no larger than a sea trunk. Its guardians were not monsters. They were portraits carved with unbearable tenderness. Faces Elijah felt he should have recognized, from family photographs he had never taken, from dreams he had never dared tell Abana about. Women with his cheekbones, men with his mother's mouth, children with eyes that had not yet learned how to lie. He broke the seal himself. Light, not blinding, but inevitable, poured out and filled every shadow, as though the room had been holding its breath for 3,000 years. Inside the chest rested a single tablet, a rectangle of black stone veined with living gold, no thicker than a finger, yet impossibly heavy with presence. Symbols moved across its surface like fish beneath dark water, never quite the same twice, yet always familiar. At its center, in a dinkra knot, Sankofa pulsed once, slow and deliberate, as though recognizing the blood in his veins and saying, finally. Harrington's hand shot forward, greedy reflex overriding every caution. Elijah caught his wrist with 2 fingers, gentle but immovable.
remember
He read aloud from the lid, voice low, almost tender.
that nothing buried stays silent forever.
The hum inside Elijah's chest answered, rolling through him like distant thunder that had learned his name in the womb. The light curled around his ankles, his calves, his waist, as if greeting a child it had lost centuries ago. The carved faces on the wall softened, eyes brightening with recognition. Elijah's own eyes reflected the gold for a heartbeat longer than they should have, pupils blown wide with something that was not fear. Dover had been sliding toward the edge for days, but this was the moment the ground gave way beneath him. He had watched Elijah touch the seal and not burn. He had watched the impossible light lean toward Elijah the way iron filings lean toward a magnet. He had watched Elijah's shadow stretch too far, too dark, too calm. Now the light was inside the man, moving under his skin like living script. Dover's revolver came up with both hands, knuckles bone white. The barrel shook so violently the front sight carved small circles in the air.
It's in him,
He rasped, voice raw and high, almost a sob.
Look at him. Whatever that thing is, it's inside him now.
Webb took one stumbling step back, mouth working soundlessly. Harrington barked.
Dover, lower that weapon at...
I'm not letting some cursed native devil walk out of here with it.
The shot cracked, deafening in the stone chamber. The sound punched every man in the chest. Powder smoke bloomed sharp and acrid. For one impossible second, the bullet simply hung there, 3 feet from the muzzle, spinning slowly, glowing like a coal pulled fresh from a fire. The rifling marks were visible, turning lazily in the golden air. Then it dropped. It struck the stone floor with a small, ordinary clink, rolled once, and lay still, a misshapen lump of lead already cooling. The echo of the gunshot took a long time to die. When it finally did, the silence was worse. Dover's mouth hung open. The revolver sagged in his grip as though it had doubled in weight. A thin whine came out of his throat. Fear, shame, disbelief all tangled together. Webb's lantern slipped from his fingers and clattered, flame guttering but not dying. His lips moved in a prayer he had forgotten the words to. Harrington stared at the bullet as if it had personally betrayed him. His face had gone the color of old parchment. When he finally spoke, his voice came out thin and cracked.
Put the gun away, Mr. Dover.
Dover didn't seem to hear. His eyes were fixed on Elijah, wide and glassy, waiting for rage, for vengeance, for anything human. Elijah only looked back, steady, sorrowful, almost pitying. The light still moved across his skin in slow waves, but his expression was quiet.
You missed.
He said softly. Not accusation, just fact. Dover's knees buckled. The revolver fell from his hand and rang against the stone like a dropped bell. He sat down hard, back against the wall, and began to shake so violently his teeth chattered. No one moved to pick up the gun. No one moved at all. The light from the tablet dimmed, sliding back beneath the black stone as gently as breath returning to lungs. The hum quieted to a watchful murmur, but the room had changed forever. 4 men had walked in. One had tried to commit murder in front of something older than murder, and the desert, far above them, had taken note. They tried to outrun what they had woken. They failed. On the second night, the dunes showed Elijah processions of luminous dead walking home, faces he would one day see in his daughter's smile, in his granddaughter's eyes, in the mirror when Elijah Mensah finally understood why the code kept trying to speak Twi. On the third night, his shadow walked beside them, calm, gold-eyed, patient, whispering the names of children not yet conceived. On the fourth night, the desert opened a seam of pure light and asked, politely, for its memory back. The seam widened into a doorway of living gold. Elijah felt his body begin to unmake itself at the edges. Sand and starlight replaced flesh. He understood, with perfect clarity that he was being taken, not destroyed, translated. In that final moment, memory flared brighter than the light around him. Abana and Cape Coast, heavy with their first child, humming old high life songs to the curve of her belly, while palm trees rattled their bones in the wind. He could smell the coconut oil in her hair, taste the pepper soup on her tongue, feel the exact weight of her breast in his palm when she rolled toward him in the dark and whispered,
"Come home to us, Elijah. The child already knows your voice."
He had promised her he would be home before the rains. He reached across years, across the widening gulf, desperate to brush his wife's cheek one last time, to lay his palm against the unborn daughter who already carried a faint golden mark behind her ear. The tablet spoke, not in words but in verdict. You will not manipulate time for love. Love that tries to move against time breaks the order of the cosmos. The light snapped shut like a jaw. A single fragment of Elijah, too small to be called a soul, too large to be called anything less, lodged itself in the child still forming beneath Abana's heart. The rest scattered into the current that runs beneath history, the same current that had waited 3,000 years for its vessel to return. His last human thought was her name, spoken aloud into a desert that had already forgotten how to listen.
Abena.
He exhaled once, calm, even as the storm consumed him. Harrington fired until his revolver burst in his hand, screaming curses in Latin and English until his throat bled. Dover ran until the sand took his footprints and gave nothing in return, until his heart gave out beneath the moon that refused to look at him. Webb fell to his knees and begged the sky for an explanation, small enough to fit inside a report. The sky gave him silence, and eventually, madness. When the wind finally settled, the ridge was clean. No tents, no tracks, no bodies. Only a single notebook half buried in the dust, its last page still wet with ink no human hand had written. The blood remembers. Far beneath the sand, something exhaled, a long, satisfied sound older than empires, and began, very patiently, to wake. In Cape Coast that same night, Elijah Mensah woke screaming her husband's name into an empty bed. She pressed both hands to her belly. The child inside kicked once, hard, deliberate, already reaching back. And the blood remembered. It always would.